Hi, Teacher Tsanga here, physical education teacher from Chadimbana Day Secondary School. In this video, I want to share my experience with the competence-based curriculum. Okay, so I handle a Form 1 class, and the subject I teach, as I've mentioned, is physical education. And in this particular video, actually, this was lesson number 2, which was actually a build-up on the first lesson, which was based on the introduction to physical education and sport. So this particular lesson is about the history of physical education. The first phase of the competence-based lesson journey is actually engagement, which is simply introduction. So in this particular lesson, what I did during this time was actually to provide the link to the previous lesson. So I actually asked my learners to discuss with their desk mates about anything that they remembered from the previous lesson. Okay.
Introduction to physical education and sports. Okay, so I want you with your neighbor there, your desk mates, I want you to talk about what you learned yesterday. I just want you to talk about, discuss anything that you remember about yesterday's lesson. So I'm giving you 5 minutes to do that. You can
sharp mind.
Yesterday we learned about physical education. This is an expression where people express themselves in different ways. Examples, we have high jump, triple jump, long jump, even backflips and many more. We even learned about how the history of others. We learned about China. China people have they have developed like martial arts. They have weightlifting, tug of war, archery, and boxing. We even went I don't know about physical education. Physical education is a subject that focuses on developing and maintaining physical fitness, health, and well-being for physical. Examples, that's sports, and excellence.
After the engagement comes the exploration. According to my experience, this is more like the mainstay of the lesson. And so in this particular lesson, what I did was, because it demands that at this particular stage, as a teacher, you have to be very resourceful and creative so that you provide different techniques and methodologies through which learners are going to learn. And they are learning by themselves. All you do is to provide the resources. So the resources that I provided in this particular lesson was my laptop, which served as a screen, and then the audio amplifier, Bluetooth radio amplifier, to ensure that at least the learners get the sound clearly. and then I had some videos which were actually about the history of physical education. So I designed my class in such a way that I divided learners into 4 groups, and the group where there was the resources that I've mentioned, the laptop and the audio amplifier. This was more like the main station. So the class was rotating, and so they were actually rotating based on the time that I actually allocated for each activity. And then in the other stations, they had, things to discuss which actually were related to the same topic that we were discussing. Okay.
Skills that were honed over generations. These early fitness activities laid the foundation for the development of more structured forms of exercise in later civilizations. Ancient Egypt, around 3000 BC, Egyptians practiced wrestling, gymnastics, swimming, and archery. These activities were not only for physical.
Physical education has not just been for fun, but also for saving lives. People have used physical education for at least hunting and many things. Thank you.
Started in the physical education for people to know ideas. In 1890, changed everything.
After learners have presented what they explored on their own, it's now your time as a teacher to explain. It's actually explanation time or phase of the lesson, where you now fill in the gaps. From what the learners have presented, you check the gaps. So one thing I need to mention here is also
because in those days mostly Europe was actually they were all talking about war, fighting against each other. So they used physical education to train soldiers, to prepare soldiers, and for other survival skills. In Africa, when we talk about Africa and physical education, we cannot forget to talk about our culture. Okay? It is embedded in the activities that we do, in the cultural activities that we do. Physical education is there. You talk of the dancing, the dances, you talk of competitions, the plays that we have, traditional games that we play, and the songs and all the activities. And also in Africa, we also had warriors. When they were going to war, they were also trained. That's how the physical education was used, to be trained and to train African warriors. And also they could run longer distances because they were fit. They were training using the physical activities in physical education. So that is the brief history. Then we can now bring it down to our country now, Zambia. So when we talk about Zambia,
after the learners' presentations and the teacher's explanation, now learners have to do. Okay, so this is more like the final assessment of the lesson, where you let learners design something based on the lesson. Of course, I did not include this part. It's where you let the learners do. You see, they can design something, they can come up with maybe presentations, notes, and the like. So in this particular lesson, I just asked learners to actually write brief notes on what they just learned. Okay, then I also further gave them some research work to do, where I asked them to go and research more about the history of physical education, especially in Zambia. Okay, then the other thing that I didn't mention was about assessment, especially during the lesson, where you have to provide an assessment too, and that assessment you actually should use it to measure the participation of learners during discussions, the way they are presenting concepts and all that. Otherwise, thank you so much.